All right, Luis Castedo. How many years have you been doing SAP? Give us an intro about yourself.
God.
I mean, how many decades?
Yeah, I started doing SAP back in 1995. My first
1995.
SAP version was 2.2B.
Wow.
That was long time ago. So in those days, R3 was brand new, and R2 was still more powerful. I think R3 was as powerful as R2 when release 4.5 was released. So imagine starting in 2.2, it was
Wow.
just we were playing with a little toy.
Yeah, I heard stories about it.
Yeah.
Like
We didn't even have transports at that time. We had to configure in dev and then configure in queue and then move the configure again in production. So
you know, you've written a lot of books, and you are a highlight person in my career, because I remember when we were gonna do a project together, like when I was a team lead down at Mexico. I looked at you and I was like, man, I swear I've seen that guy somewhere.
I remember.
So I came and I introduced myself, and as soon as you tell me your name and last name, I went and Googled it. So
yeah, like you wrote the book.
You know, I learned SAP reading some of your books.
I hope they were good.
Yeah.
I hope they helped.
No, they were great, man. They were great.
Great.
Well,
They're still there. Unfortunately, we haven't been asked, because that's the way it works with SAP Press. They ask you what to do, right? And we haven't been asked to update them anymore. So all these S4 HANA is not updated. It covers a lot of the functionality that is still valid in S4 HANA, but they were written for ECC 6.0.
Yeah. Now you're doing a lot of work with S4 right now, right? Fiori?
Yes, I've been doing S4 now for, I think, for 4 years.
4 years.
And the first version of S4 that I worked with was 1610.
1610, okay.
1610, and that's when I got to know Fiori. And it was kind of a little nightmare to work with Fiori at that time, for many reasons. One, we didn't have the correct people to implement it. Fiori is a very powerful tool, especially nowadays, but you need professional people to set it up. And we were counting on the basis guy to set it up. The basis guy didn't have any idea how to set it up. So the project manager ended up buying books about Fiori. And he did a really good work, really. He spent nights and days and weeks went by until it was working. And then we started using it. And my first impression was like, oh, this looks nice, but let's play around a little bit with it. And it's so different to using SAP GUI. Really different. Well, that was my first experience with S4, and I've been doing S4 ever since. And right now I'm working with the cloud version 2105, so the most recent version of it.
Most recent version.
Yeah, and now Fiori is really unleashed. And we have a lot of applications that are very interesting. It's still very different to use than SAP GUI.
So what are some of the benefits? Now, I know there are a lot of people that are still skeptical, you know. Can I do it? Do I upgrade my portal? Do I not upgrade it? Like,
yes. Well, Fiori has a lot of benefits, and one of the main benefits maybe is the ease of use. But it's very easy to use to somebody that has never used SAP. If you're a user that is migrating from SAP GUI, maybe you're upgrading from ECC to S4 HANA, and you're used to using the SAP GUI screens, it's a shock, just like it was for me and like it's for many of the consultants, right? And but it's very clean looking. Everything is little tiles that you have on a web page. Everybody knows how to use a web page, right? You go into a web store and read your news on the web. So that's the kind of feeling that you get when you're using Fiori. It's not anymore this interface from the 90s, right?
Right. So
And so it's easy to use. It's it's role based. So ECC tried to implement roles, right? And we had the purchasing specialist and the warehouse clerk and those kind of roles. But really, what we did was just grant access to users to all the transactions that we wanted, right? And we ended up with security roles that covered the whole functionality for purchasing and the whole functionality for management and sales and production and et cetera, et cetera. So in Fiori, what you do is every time you assign a user role to one of your users, they get a set of Fiori tiles, a set of applications. So they get what they are going to use, right? So if you're just a warehouse clerk or if you're just a buyer, you just get a few tiles, and then to get more tiles, you need more roles. Mm-hmm. Like for example, when you're a consultant and you want to test all the tiles, you get all these
they
roles.
gotta make it easier on the user, right? Because now they have a specific screen that's much smaller plate to eat out of.
Yes. So from that side, it's very easy. It's trying to simplify things. They claim, SAP claims that it's 64% more efficient than using SAP GUI. That I think it depends also on how you implement it, because some screens are very slow. You click on something and you just see the bubbles, right? So if you have a dedicated server where you implement Fiori and it's a very powerful server, I think it's going to work fine, right? And you're going to click and you're going to see your results. And you ask the Fiori something and it will come back to you in like that. But for example, in the typical development servers that we get, you click on something and you see bubbles. So the 64% depends really on what kind of implementation you do, right? I would very much recommend that people go for a separate server and because otherwise they're gonna just see bubbles and the users are gonna get tired of seeing those bubbles and go back to SAP GUI.
So okay. Speed is very important, and you gotta get the right speed.
Speed is very important because you need patience. You need patience to try the new ways of doing things. You need patience to get acquainted with the new screens because there's no relationship between. We were used to, for example, click save at the top of our SAP GUI interface, right? Every screen had a little diskette, or like the young people say, the Honda logo.
The Honda logo.
What a diskette is. So you clicked on that Honda logo and you saved your transaction, right? The document is posted, you created a sales order, a purchase order, a production order, whatever. Now, those buttons don't exist. So you have different places for different things, right? And probably even the name of things are different now.
So is it saving real time now? And as you're editing, it gets saved?
Yeah, it's real time, just like it was with SAP GUI. And now everything is, the Fiori is based on UI5.
UI5, okay.
Yeah. So it runs in many platforms. That's another very good advantage. So if I'm a salesman and I have my cell phone or my tablet, I can run Fiori on my device. And I get my buttons to create maybe a quote and even a sales order, and I can respond. I can even bring up catalogs. So because there's other SAP products that are also using Fiori, like The IBP uses Fiori. The new CRM, what is called the sales. What is it? The sales hub? It's not the sales hub. It's the sales cloud. Sorry. So Sales Cloud, which is a very powerful tool for salespeople, uses Fiori. So they could, if they have their tablet with them, they can show the catalogs to their customers. The customer can choose what they want to buy, and they just click like if you were buying in Amazon, and you create your sales order just by clicking on items and adding them to the cart, and then you create your order, and that creates a sales order in SAP.
Got it. Now, are there any other benefits from a analyst or consultant perspective? How is Fiori?
From the consultant perspective, maybe not so much, but if you have an also analytic,
the fact that you go to the bar and you say, I just built a Fiori application.
Yeah. So Fiori is for users, not for us consultants. But there's a few things that we have to do only with Fiori. For example, the new workflow applications for purchase orders, for requisitions, that kind of stuff, you configure it directly in Fiori. You don't have to, like in the past, I've never used in ECC and even in S4 HANA, I never before used workflow, because well, it was just something else, right? That nobody knew how it
was
worked.
Another beast on its own.
Exactly, it was a beast by itself, and now all the workflows for all the releases of these type of documents, you configure them directly in Fiori. So there's a couple of tiles there, a couple of applications that that guide you through the process and take you step by step by step, and then you have a workflow.
So what are some of the pushbacks you usually get from the business partners? I mean, when it comes to Fiori.
From the business partners, like the clients, the customers, like
the
companies. Well, there's two things. They are very interested in looking at the Fiori apps that are that give them information, not so much on the transactional stuff, because they know the transactional stuff can be done, right? Either with SAP GUI or something else. But there's all these and I'm gonna say it's the bait on the hook for the partners to bite on, because you can look at the procurement overview page or the sales overview page, and you have information about how many orders you have, how many purchases out of contract you have, how many requisitions are pending release, how many orders are late. So you have graphs, you have all these numbers floating around well, not floating, but they're in the screen in different little tiles. But you have this collection of tiles that show you a lot of information just by opening that. So if you are a purchasing manager or a sales manager, you can start your day by opening Fiori and looking at those overview pages. Okay, and that's information that comes directly from your S4 HANA system. Okay,
and they're easy configurable and easy to build those mini dashboards per se.
Those come out of the box. You don't have to do anything.
Okay.
All right. So those come out of the box. What you configure or we configure as consultants, but it's kind of simple. So the users can also do some of this configuration. It's set the filters, right? Like if you're the purchasing manager for purchasing organization 001, then your filter has to be based on 001, right?
Got it.
And the purchasing groups, the buyers that are working under you, so that you get relevant information for you, right? So that information, it's just a set of filters. It's like entering parameters in a query, and the information comes up, and you open your Fiori Launchpad. That's the name of the home screen in Fiori, and you can look at that information. So that's easy to do, and you can leave it open all day and work in SAP GUI if you want, right? There's one other big benefit. So that's like the big ticket item for management, but a little bit for management and a little bit for the regular
users.
Regular users is SAP is introducing a lot of tiles that work with artificial intelligence.
Oh.
Yeah, so artificial intelligence is coming to us to help the user in their day-to-day tasks. So there's tiles.
If the shipper sends a product in a different continent, now they can blame the artificial intelligence. Huh?
More or less. No, but right now the applications are simple, so they are not doing big things. But for example, there's one artificial intelligence tile that learns, because everything is machine learning, right? So they start looking at the history of how the vendors are delivering the merchandise. Are they delivering on time? Are they late? Are they early? And so one of these tiles does the estimation of the delivery date. So you run MRP, you get your requisition, and it says I need this material by October 15th, right? And you create your PO, and then you run your artificial intelligence thing, and it tells you, no, this vendor delivers early, so this purchase order will not be here on the 15th, it will be here on the 13th.
Got it. So it uses past history, kind of like I do when I'm about to go out with my wife. She says in 30 minutes, my artificial intelligence kicks in. I know it's going to take at least an hour.
Yeah.
15.
Well,
so I can recalculate.
We don't learn. I hope we learned, right? Because we keep doing the same stuff. I'll take you to that burger place that you love, but I don't like it. I've told you 17 times that I don't like it.
Well, it's funny because we were talking about the other day, and she was like, I don't understand you when you talk. I was like, Siri understands me. Watch. I called Siri, and Siri understood me. All right. Artificial intelligence.
That also, when my daughters tell me that I have that they don't like my pronunciation, I go, Siri likes it.
Siri, she does. She understands everybody. I think.
By the way, when you mentioned Siri, it reminded me. There's this also new thing in a new tool with Fiori that is called SAP Copilot.
Oh.
And it's the Fiori. I mean the Siri of Fiori.
The Siri of Fiori.
Yeah, so it uses natural language, and you as a buyer, I haven't seen it yet working yet. We're gonna have a few of the services turned on by the time we go live, but we're still working on them. So I haven't seen it yet, but supposedly you as a buyer can tell Copilot to show you in natural language. You build your query. Show me the purchase orders that are open for vendor 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
Right? Instead of opening the tile and entering your data for your query, you just talk to the thing and it gives you your report.
It does save a few clicks, no doubt about it.
Yeah, that will save you a lot of work. Especially when
can you show what time my wife will be ready for dinner?
Well, you have to give it a few years.
I set it up as a vendor. Will that work?
Yeah. Yeah, it has to learn, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe you'll learn faster than I do. Like you said, we gotta learn too.
Yeah, probably it probably will. And well, so those are the niceties and debate, like I said, that SAP is throwing at us to pull us into the Fiori world. And what happens? You start using those nice things, and when you realize you're doing everything in Fiori.
Right. I'm sure. I mean, I felt like I could see this coming since a couple years ago when I saw SAP and Apple make an agreement. They're probably going to bake something, which this is probably it.
Probably behind the scenes, this Copilot has Siri, right?
Yeah. Luis, now what have you noticed, like some mistakes that companies make with Fiori usually?
SAP or Apple?
SAP.
You said Apple.
No, company. No, I mean companies, like companies implementing the solution.
Well, I think it's the biggest mistake is not hiring a company that knows how to implement Fiori. Okay. That's probably
there's so many in the market. How do you know that company knows how to?
That's a very good question, and probably we need to do some research on that. Here in my project, they hired this company that works only with Fiori and Basis and EDI, so that those kind of like all the plugins to SAP, right?
They're specialized in Fiori.
Very specialized, and for example, in my case, when we were going through the selection of all the best practices that we're going to implement for our client, running through all the best practice scripts, I picked up all the Fiori applications, right? Because in the script it tells you go to this application, it has a little number. You can go to the Fiori app. What is it? The app catalog. There's a website called and I'll give you the correct address. But they have more than 3,000 applications right now. Wow. They started with 25, so back in 2003. But now they have more than 3,000. So what you have to do is look at what functionality you want to provide to your users, and find out the best practices are a very good place to start, because when you go through the test scripts for the best practices, they tell you the Fiori tile to execute each of the steps, right? So I took I built my list of Fiori tiles, and my list is 126 different tiles to cover all my scripts, not for a single user, just to cover all my scripts. And I gave that list of 126 scripts to this company, and they activated them. Okay, and it was really, really fast. Like in a week, I had like 50, and I started testing, and halfway through testing those Fiori tiles, I got more released, and right now I have all of them, right? So, but they know what they're doing.
So it's important to have your requirements or to have your processes detailed before.
You have to have a very you have to figure out which applications you want to use, and that's your starting point, right? Because maybe later you discover that you missed one scenario, or that you want this other app, right? And the good thing about the Fiori catalog is that you can go by business process. I'm sorry. So you go by your business process and look at what applications are available, so you can look them up. And of course, like I said, you want one tile, and you have to add one role, and that gives you like 5 or 6 different tiles, right? But
so how does that change the world during an implementation for the business users?
Well, it changes it for us and for them, right? Because now we don't just configure and test in SAP GUI like we used to do. We know our screens by very, very hard, right? I can close my eyes and tell you how to create a purchase order, for example, just because I know it, right? And but if I go to Fiori, first I have to pick the right tile, and then go in and figure out where to enter my data, how do I choose my document type, where do I enter my vendor, and everything is right there. But your eyes are not used to
They're not used to
those
it. You don't
fields
know
in
where to look
those places,
exactly.
right? So you want to enter the vendor and your eyes go up. And no, it's to the
It's
right.
at the bottom. I got
So
it.
it's a paradigm shift. Yes. So we have to spend a lot of time learning how to use those Fiori tiles as consultants
Mhm.
before we can tell the users, oh, by the way, you're going to create a purchase orders in this Fiori tile, and this is the way you do it, right?
So how do you keep up with the tiles? I mean, that's like keeping up with the App Store right now.
Yeah. Well, you select what you want to start with, and and don't look anywhere else. So stay like that.
Got it.
Yeah, once you go live and you have your processes under control, you can start looking for other things, right?
Got it.
But it's like every project. You have to have a very well defined scope and control the scope creep, right? If you go beyond your scope, you're going to start getting into trouble. Your
So
times are
how do
going to
you
get longer.
uh, now I managed the SAP project, right? And um, a lot of folks make that statement like you can run an SAP project using agile methodology. I
Uh-huh.
mean, you can build it in that way, but it has to make sense. Right? Like I
True.
was talking to Chris the other day. I cannot give you, let's say, order to cash. I can give you a sales order functionality today and then deliver it tomorrow. Like they have to be at the same time and they have to be rolled out at the same time, right?
Mhm.
Now with
Right.
Fury, it sounds like there's a lot of tasks and there's a lot of changes. So with those changes, that kind of forces a business to change their requirements a little bit, right? Like for example, let's say I want a tile that can do X, Y, Z, and then you find one that can do X, Y, B, C.
Well, but we don't do that things that way, right? We say what we need the customer to know is that they want to create a purchase order, that they want to run MRP, create a requisition, convert it into a purchase order, send it to the vendor, right? So those are our process steps, and those are the same. And we can go, like you say, if we're using agile methodology, we can go with our iterations until each of those little steps of the process are ready. And when we
Mhm.
have a process that is ready, well, you go to the next process because we have a go live date. Like you said, I cannot give you MRP today and requisitions next week and purchase orders the next week, right? But I can put together a process and have it ready, and then look at another process. And when you have your process configured and tested, then you start testing the tiles,
Mhm.
right? And say, okay, this is the MRP tile, and I want to schedule a batch job to run MRP for plant 1, 2, 3, 4,
All right.
and
You're an SD guy. I'm an SD guy too.
uh,
Uh, Now let's speak the same language that I can
let's
understand it.
switch to from
Yeah,
purchase order to sales order.
yeah, turn off the fascist order, turn on the SD.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
let's say sales orders, delivery invoices. Now, before you kind of did like a blueprinting together, right? Like what's the process? And then
Mhm.
you kind of build the interfaces separately, but in a way, in the blueprint, they integrate with one another, right? Now, here, how is that different? Because you said like you build one sales order process, you build
Mhm.
that tile, and
Well,
then you go to the delivery tile. How now when you go to the delivery tile, do you find that you often have to go back to the sales order tile and make changes, or?
well, it's the same. It's the same process because you are the customer service rep that is using the create sales order tile, right? But someone in the warehouse will use the manage
The
delivery style and
put
look at,
away.
yeah, now it's the manage. It used to be our delivery do list, right?
The
But
put away, you remember the put away?
yeah. So, well, not the put away. We need to do the picking, right? So when you have your deliveries listed, that also links to now it links to EWM and all this new stuff. But you as a user that is part of a process, you will use the correct tiles for your process steps.
Got it.
Right?
Okay, I understand.
So if I am a person in the warehouse looking at what I need to ship today, I won't be looking at sales orders. I will be looking at deliveries, right?
I understand. Okay.
And when I create when I start doing the picking, well, the warehouse clerk is going to be using either WM or the EWM tiles.
I have a question for you, Luis. Put
Mhm.
away. Is that still called put away or no?
Yeah. As far as I know, as far as
Listen, try going to Mexico in a warehouse and teaching the guys the process of pick and put away. Something about that put away, man.
yeah. I will not translate.
Yeah, I'll not translate that either.
I will not translate that into what the warehouse guys really mean when you say put away. The Mexican word.
That's for everybody listening to figure out. All right.
Yeah, but I won't go there. I won't go there.
All right. So, what else can you tell us, Luis?
What else can I tell you? Hold on. I have my list of things that I wanted to tell you. I told you about the natural language thing. I told you about artificial intelligence. Oh, there's this other thing called situations.
Oh,
Yeah, it's also a very powerful tool. It's like queries. You remember
yeah,
ABAP queries.
about queries.
Only that you don't need to go and create an info set and then a query and select your fields, whatever. So these are queries to look up for very specific objects like sales orders, like deliveries,
Mhm.
right? So as a salesperson, you want to know which sales orders don't have a delivery yet and are being now are late, right? Because they don't have a delivery. So you build your query, which you set for sales orders without a delivery, and the delivery creation date is today, for example, right? Or
Mhm.
yesterday. So today you get a notification. So on your Fiori Launchpad, there's a little bell icon here at the top, and you can get notifications when your query found matches, right?
Mm.
So you'll see, oh, sales order number blah 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 from customer blah 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 are late. All these orders are late, and that can also be linked to the natural language thing, so that when you click on the little bell, it will read to you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, Luis, from an implementation perspective and
Mhm.
cost, those are thinking about getting rid of their SAP GUI or portal that are
Mhm.
running on those older technologies.
Uh-huh.
What are some of the things they can do to prepare?
Okay. Well, don't get rid of your sub GUI. That's probably
Don't-
my first. No, but it's a transition period. Okay, it's a or a not a transition period, but you have to transition little by little.
Right.
So you first have to
So
if
do we
you
run parallel, right? So you're saying we keep the GUI and then start introducing the
yes,
Fury
if
and
you're a
little by
person
little?
that already uses SAP GUI and decided not to implement Fiori because whatever reason, right? So for you have S4 HANA and either on the cloud or on premise, and but you're hearing this crazy person on the podcast that is telling you all these benefits about Fiori, and you're interested in started looking at Fiori. Well, you first have to find the partner to implement Fiori, right? To turn it on. And then you need your analysts or your consultants to start identifying the pieces, these styles, these processes that you want to start using in Fiori, and start playing around with it, start getting acquainted. look at the overview pages. That's a very good start. So there's a purchasing overview page, a sales overview page, a shipping overview page. So there's overview pages for the different processes, and you get all kinds of information with that. So that's a good start. Start your day looking at your overview page, right? And then start looking into what of these new tools are of benefit to your company, right? I really think that in the end, when you use Fiori a little more extensively, you're going to get a lot of benefits because you get all these situations, things, and the artificial intelligence working for you. Even if you don't implement the natural language, you have all these little tiles that provide you information. Even if you have to type your filter or your selection criteria, you still get a lot of information that you used to go to, for example, maybe the sales info system, right? The sales info system is something from back from the end of the 80s, from the 90s, beginning of 2000s. So it's a very nice tool, but it's very old.
It's like a multi-step tool.
Yeah, all these new reports in Fiori work really nice. They give you graphs immediately. And like I've been in customers that invest a lot of money into having all these analytics software, building reports in an analytics software like I don't know, I forgot the name of these other tools, but they extract information from SAP, right? It's always old information because it's not online, so it's an extract probably from last night, and they're looking at these reports. With Fiori, maybe the report is not that nice or that complete, but you're looking at online information, real-time information, which is very valuable. So if I am
real time, where you don't have to spend a lot of money on integrations like you would with the third party tool.
The only costly part is, well, the server. Like I said, you need a powerful server. And your partner, select a good partner that helps.
You mentioned the partner like 3 times already, Luis. Do you think, okay, the partner is of course important in every project. In your opinion, do you think that's more important with Fiori now?
At least because of the specialization, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it has hundreds of apps and you could get lost in the Fiori.
And it's something that the basis people don't know how to turn on. It's something that regular consultants, we don't know how to turn it on. I already saw a project manager turn it on, right? But it took us long. So by the time we finished turning on Fiori, we were already using SAP Fiori. I think we went live first with SAP GUI and then brought Fiori up. So we never had the chance to train the users or test the tiles that were available at that time. So if you don't have Fiori turned on in like quickly and resolve all these items, that a lot of the times you turn it on and you click on an application and it says that it cannot start, and you start opening OSS notes, and you know that cycle with SAP, right? You open an OSS note, and maybe in a couple of days, 3 days, they get back to you, and then they tell you to do something, or you need to give them access to the system so they look what you're doing. So it takes at least a week to solve one issue, right? And if you have and if you're implementing, for example, in my case right now, just for purchasing, I have these 100 and how many did I say? 126 tiles. It will take you 126 weeks, right? Yeah. So you need somebody that really knows Fiori.
Got it.
That can resolve issues like on the fly, really.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the business, they also need to be on their top game about what is it that they want. They have to have clear requirements, and those get translated. They used to be translated into function requirements. Now it sounds like tiles.
Yeah, well, those can be done by us, the regular consultants, right? That part can be done by us. But the more technical part of turning Fiori on, that has to be somebody that really knows it. For us, it's just configuring filters, configuring the report so that they show you the information that you're looking for. But I need the tile to be working before I can do that, right?
Got it. So how do you separate a regular consultant? And I'm sure when you say regular means you're talking to somebody that has worked in ECC for 20 years, not so much with Fury. Now, how do you separate the Fury expert and an ECC expert?
A Fiori expert is somebody that probably started as a basis person, but started having to connect all these new things, right? Connecting IBP, connecting the sales. What did I say? The name was the sales hub or something like
Sales
that.
hub, you said.
Yeah. So all these new products that require Fiori to work have developed people, right? So it's basis people with different experience. It's not the database experience anymore, the operating system experience anymore. It's like a step further in what they need to do. So if you can find a consultant, a basis consultant that has that experience, you're lucky. But otherwise, I would really go and look for a company that can do it for me.
Company that
And
can
you
do
don't
it.
need them, and you don't need them for a year, right? You need
Right.
them for maybe 8 weeks to turn everything on, and
No,
then and then occasionally because you have a problem.
got it. Now, once they turn it on, for let's say this 8 weeks, they turn it on. What happens after that?
After
Now,
that, have
now let's say you gotta make changes into the system. So I'm guessing that's configuration. Now, does any
that's
programming take
configuration.
place?
That's just what we normally do. The IMG, we go into the IMG, we configure our document types, we configure our I don't know, sales group, sales
Yep,
offices, the everything, all the master data settings for material types and divisions
all the
and
fun stuff.
all the stuff that we do for every project, right? That works with Fiori. So Fiori only reads that. Remember, it's a new graphical user interface, right? Based on a better user experience. That's
Got it.
what it has. Just a better user experience, and so once it's turned on, it's there for you to use it, right?
Got it. So
Yeah.
once you configure the system or you add the functionality, passing that on to Fiori, it's a matter of clicks and drops.
Of just signing in on a web page, yeah.
Got it.
Or there's a transaction in SAP that you execute and it opens your browser and takes you to the launchpad.
Have you seen cases where the business migrates to Fury, but they continue to use the... Now, we did say that you run it parallel, but what I'm talking about for the same exact process, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say sales orders. Have you seen them do that in the old GUI and then parallel use Fury, or that's a no-no?
I've seen clients that just stop using Fiori because they didn't have the patience. I mentioned patience a while ago. And I think this client that I'm talking about, our Fiori system was very slow. We kept looking at all these bubbles, and then at the time Fiori wasn't so complete. So, for example, you couldn't create a purchase purchase order for subcontracting, right? You had to do it in SAP GUI. Or for example, with that client, the finance people were the best users of Fiori. They did everything in Fiori. And one day, one of the accountants called me, one of the guys in accounts payable. I cannot pay this invoice. What's happening? And I'm like, oh, it's a subcontracting invoice. You cannot do it here. You have to go to SAP GUI, right? So there were limitants at the time.
Got it.
So and for example, my production users.
What year was that, Luis?
2017.
2017. So
That was
5
2017,
years ago.
and Fiori was an evolving product, because our SAP friends are going to listen to this, and I don't want to say bad things about a product, but it was an evolving product. It was still in its infancy, right? It was the first time Fiori was available for an S4 HANA product, 1610. So the apps were really slow. The functionality wasn't there yet. Um, so
It was definitely an agile release for sure.
oh my God, no, it wasn't agile at all. From any
Well, it's
perspective,
like,
right?
here's a framework. We'll give you the applications later.
But yeah, so the users got really tired of waiting, got tired of sometimes working on in one environment and sometimes working on the other. And I had users that completely dumped Fiori.
It's funny because I got a call from a recruiter. I forget what year it was,
Uh-huh.
but HANA was only like a year or 2 years old. They called me and they're looking for an SAP HANA that had 3-4 years experience. I was like, "Whoa, boy, this is gonna be a rough road."
Yeah. It's like graduating from college, and all the companies want you to have 6 years of experience, right?
Are you still traveling with Luis, or you're working
No,
remotely?
I haven't traveled since March 2020.
Still in Mexico City?
Working here at my from home in Mexico City, yes.
So were you like one of the first Mexicans to get into SAP?
No, actually was late into the SAP game here in
You
Mexico.
were?
Yeah,
Because
because it started with R2. It started with R2, not with R3. So by the time I started with R3, there were a lot of SAP consultants, but with R2 experience.
because when I started, which wasn't that long ago, only 10 years ago, I was like one of the first 5 Albanians that had SAP.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. When did we work together? 2016?
We worked 2015, 16.
2016? Yeah.
2016, I left. We
Uh-huh.
worked.
Oh, okay, so that it was before that. Yeah.
Yeah, it
So
was
it should
before.
have been 2015.
Yeah. Where were we in UK? Or
I
San
was in
Diego?
the
San
UK in
Antonio.
2018.
I still have your picture with your arms up. All right,
Uh,
Luis.
that
I
was a good time.
I appreciate it, man. This was good.
Well,
Now,
I hope it was good, and it was interesting, and somebody benefits from
I
my
I
little
think
experience with Fiori.
I think they will. And how, if people want to find you, how can they find you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, and all
So,
my contact information is there.
Luis Castedo.
Luis Castillo. Yeah.
All right, my friend. Good talking to you. I wish you all the best.